Hey friend, this is episode number 526 of the And So podcast with Taylor Bradford. Let's get to it. Boss Girl Creative presents And So with Taylor Bradford, business and life musings from a successful serial entrepreneur. Each week, you will hear Taylor spill the tea on all things business, life, relationships, health, and everything in between. But don't worry, each week also includes a business nugget that will help you stay on course. And now a throwback to 3-year-old Taylor who inspired all of this.
And so,
Hello, welcome to this episode of the podcast. I'm starting my 11th year of podcasting, which is so crazy going into the 11th year. I want to say really quickly, thank you so much for the feedback that I received and the love that I received on my 10th anniversary of the podcast. It truly means a lot to me. And yeah, let's dive in. I've got some topics to share with you. This week's nugget is a good one. And I'm making a pivot away from compounding social media interest. And I'm going to tell you all about what I'm going to be doing next. So since it's been a hot minute since I sat down with you and had a conversation, let's dive into what's been going on in my world. So my husband's grandmother recently passed away and we had her celebration of life and funeral. And then my husband and I jetted off to South Padre with some of that family to kind of continue having that celebration of life and just an opportunity to decompress from all of that. And I've never been to South Padre before. I was not all that impressed by South Padre, to be honest. And there was a lot of oil in the ocean and a lot of oil on the beaches. And that was really kind of depressing to see oil sitting on the beaches and then your clothes getting ruined by oil in the ocean. And then we came back and basically drove through the area that Texas experienced mass devastation from flooding. And we actually had that storm down in South Padre, and we drove through it from South Padre all the way up to my town. And not too long after that was the flooding in the Kerrville area, which has just been such a nightmare for people. Devastating, heartbreaking, all of those things. And yeah, so my prayers go out to everybody. I have donated to World Central Kitchen. I have donated to Convoy of Hope. I donated to a little girl's memory fund and for her puppy dogs. And it's all around heartbreaking. It's all around heartbreaking. So when we got back, we were stuck in a lot of rain and I was not able to get out to the garden actually until today. And I did a big harvest today and I don't know where I feel or how I feel about the garden right now because it's hot and I don't have water out there still. Hopefully that's happening this week, but I don't know. I was anticipating some things happening and some of it did, some of it didn't. So maybe ask me next week when I check in with you about the garden next week. So things are still in bloom. I am harvesting tomatoes literally by the boatloads. I started my fall tomato plants back in the middle of June and man, they are getting so close for them to be ready to go out. I have to do the hardening off process and I think I am going to be selling some of the plants because I germinated too many. But that's a good problem to have. The farm stand is doing well. I'm just trying to get my groove and get people to know that I exist. So that's your garden update. I'm currently reading The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. I think I actually got that advanced reader copy through NetGalley because it hasn't come out yet. And I was like, it was a book that I wanted to read because I really liked Julie Clark. And then I found it on my Kindle while I was down at the beach, and I was like, holy crap, I literally have this saved in my Libby app to download out of my library once, like I have a hold on it. So that was exciting to see that I actually already had that book. So that is what I'm reading. I'm not listening to anything. I have a couple of books that I just got that just shelved onto my library, my Libby app. So I'll be listening to a couple new books soon. So that is that. Let's do search bar confessions next. And then we're going to talk about my pivot into a new social media strategy. So search bar confessions. Here's what I have been searching on Google lately. First up, Sennheiser microphone. I don't know that I'm going to actually need this microphone, but I heard somebody say it in reference to what I'm going to be talking about in just a moment with this week's business nugget and the Bosch TV series. So I was a super big fan of Designated Survivor and one of the lead characters. And I noticed that she has a spinoff series and that's coming out this week. And I don't remember what it's called, forgive me, but I noticed she was a part of another series called Bosch. And so then I was like, how did I not know about this series Bosch? And I think that was originally written by Michael Connelly. And so I went down that rabbit hole and now I want to watch Bosch. And then I Googled Poker Face renewed. Like, is it going to get renewed for a third season? I absolutely adore this TV series. It is so good. And the fact that it feels very 90s, it has a ton of celebs every single episode. It is got strong writing, and the lead character is phenomenal. I just love this series so much. And so I was like, has it been renewed for season 3? If you're a Poker Face fan, as of right now, it has not, but they are already exploring that as a possibility. I also Googled produce storage for what am I supposed to do when I don't have sales and I don't really want it going bad? How do I keep it as fresh as possible? And then drip lines versus soaker hoses. What am I going to do once I get water to my garden area? And then Viral You Boot Camp by Sarah Snow. And that is going to segue into what I'm about to talk about. So if you've been a listener for the last 6 months, you will hear me talking about compounding social media interest. I still absolutely think that is a thing. But now I want to try something else. What I have been seeing a lot, so there's an Instagram account I follow, Business Secrets Club, and her name is Martha. She's in the UK. I absolutely love her. I love her content. I love what she's doing. She is product based by what she does in her day job. She does stationery, and she started this Business Secrets Club on Instagram about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. I stumbled on her in one of my previous experiments, and she's just genuine and knows what she's talking about. And I learn from her every time I see one of her Instagrams. And she's been talking about storytelling. I see all of the Instagram gurus talking about storytelling as of late. And then I stumble onto Sarah Snow, and I think her Instagram is I am Sarah Snow. And I will link it in the show notes in case I'm incorrect. But I went down a rabbit hole with Sarah Snow and what she's all about and what she's teaching and kind of what her account is doing and what her niche is, which is separate from her teaching about storytelling and what her backstory is. She's been a content creator for other influencers and celebrities for 10 years and never had an account on her own. And most of that was due to imposter syndrome and fear. And then she started really honing in and focusing in on creating her own content about 2 years ago. And it's really compelling storytelling, truly compelling storytelling. And so I found her boot camp. I saw one of her pinned reels. I gave her the passcode or whatever, and I just bombarded myself with a lot of her information. And one of the things that she offers is this Viral You boot camp. It's ongoing right now. But there's a wait list for whenever she's going to do it the next time. And I think she has a DIY version. So if you don't want live help, you can do the DIY version, but both of them are on wait list right now. So I was like, okay, I am enamored by your content. I'm enamored by your philosophy and the way you're teaching how to do these things. What can I do right now? How can I learn from you more? And so I bought a masterclass that basically had her creating a reel in her own workflow and methodology. And she's like, I'm going to put this out. I'm scared that it might tank, but I think it's still got the formula that I've been using, and we're going to use this and workshop it, and I'm going to put it out there. And it legitimately did exactly what she thought it would do. And so it's a masterclass in her starting from the very beginning of storyboarding and creating the content, and then all the way to publish. And then she revisits it a couple of times to update you on how well it's performing. And you can go look at it right now and see how well it has performed, which is incredible. And her whole philosophy is posting one time a week. And her strategy is more centered with Instagram. She's not like saying this is going to work over on TikTok or even YouTube, but she has clients that have used it successfully on those platforms. It's just not a platform she's actively testing. And so that is the caveat. And so I went through that. Like, I just sat down and binged all of that content. And I was like, okay, I'm going to experiment. I don't have access to this boot camp. I don't know when this boot camp is going to be a thing, but I'm going to take her knowledge. And she does a 3-day email kind of like freebie. And it's her viral video formula, which starts with a hook, which is your bold statement. And you visually tell a story with the hook. Then you back it up and with another bold statement that basically backs up the first bold statement, but now you're in a visual story board number 2, and then you conclude it with your new perspective over that bold statement, and you have a visual story queuing up against that, and then you end on authenticity, and it's a 4th visual storyline. So the whole point of that is to basically tell the story with the hook, back it up, conclude it, and then end on authenticity. And that's the formula. And she talks about having value per second. Each second of a video is a unit of time that cannot be wasted. So value per second. Think about everything per second. And think about what bold opinions you have about things based on your niche. And she says, it's not necessarily about your niche, which I find very interesting, which is also part of my experiment. She's like, you are the niche. You just might be talking about a few different topics. So what really sets her apart in my mind by watching her content, she likes to cook while she is giving you these bold statements. And she provides you the recipe, which is one part of her storytelling, but then she's talking about what makes her unique and what, drives her and what her bold statements are through telling a story through food. So she's got you on all sides. She's hooked you in based on the content, the topic, but then she's cooking with you. And so by the end, you get to see the finished product. So you may just enjoy her content based on the food she's cooking, or you may love her content based on what the topic of the reel is. So she's storytelling through food. It's very impactful. It is so incredibly impactful. So in this series that I purchased, she talks about you lining yourself up with self-worth or self-trust. So self-worth would be considered like your content ideas, being on camera, and your technical skills. Like all 3 of those are bottled up into self-worth. self-worth. And then the other side of that equation is your quantity of content, your consistency, and being known. That's self-trust. And figuring out which side of that spectrum are you swinging, and then understanding how to overcome those things in order to move forward. So the whole reason storytelling is like a hot topic right now is all because of AI. AI is driving things right now. It's considered an AI-led system. And if you think about like 4 quadrants, you've got behind the scenes content, you have public facing content, and then to the left of that, you have AI, and to the right of that, you have human. So AI idea generation is behind the scenes and AI driven. And then lifeless content is being created by AI, but that's public facing. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have personal doubt and curated vulnerability, which is all human driven. So personal doubt is stuff happening behind the scenes. And then curated vulnerability is what you're putting out into the public. And it's a big cycle. So automation leads to reflection, leads to expression, leads to analysis, back to automation, to reflection, expression, analysis, and so on. And the big takeaway from all of that is that when you build a personal brand, AI cannot compete with it because it cannot prioritize reflection and expression. It's a robot. It has no emotion, and it's not able to mean anything. That's the difference between you and a robot. You can actually mean what you say. A robot cannot. So if you're thinking about your own content and how you can spice things up and lean more into the storytelling side of things, here are some prompts that she gave. Lately, I've been thinking about. Last week, I realized. I'm on a journey too. I'm trying to figure out how to. Today is the first day I'm going to. Today is day 1. I am trying to achieve fill in the blank. This is the story of how I went from X to Y. And then finally, this feels scary to say, but. So all of those are driven by your meaning, by you meaning what you say because they're story driven. AI cannot possibly replicate that because it cannot prioritize reflection and expression. So my whole thing, I'm going to make a pivot. I'm going to attempt for Instagram for sure. TikTok, I'm like debating, do I attempt this on TikTok or just do I focus on Instagram? Because my needle mover didn't move so much on Instagram with this compounding social media interest. It continues to move on YouTube and it continues to move on TikTok. So what I'm thinking is one piece of content for Instagram, continue doing what I'm doing on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, but see if I can finally move the needle on Instagram doing it this new way. That's more story driven, more intentional, more storyboarded, more voiceover. Like that is what I'm going to attempt. You guys know I love to experiment with things. So that is my next experiment. And we're going to find out together what ends up happening. Also, Sarah Snow has built an AI tool that helps you storyboard your content. And it's based on every piece of content she has ever created for other humans, including herself. I haven't tried it yet. I plan on trying it specifically to help me storyboard some of these ideas for my Instagram account for Taylor L. Bradford. And yeah, we're just going to see how things play out. I feel like TikTok is more unhinged and less like driven in this way. And people are so supportive over on TikTok. So if you haven't considered TikTok as another strategy for yourself, you may consider that. But yeah, so stay tuned on this new experiment that I'm going to be trying out. and I will report back each week based on how things are going. So I will give a baseline stat number next week. I'm still keeping track of everything, and we're going to see if I can move that Instagram needle more than what I ever was able to do with putting out the same piece of content on all 3 platforms and watching something grow. I just really struggled with Instagram and getting that needle to move. So we're going to try this out. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I so appreciate you. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this week.
And Phil. Let's talk. Let's go.
And like my 3-year-old self said, that is all for this week. Friendly reminder to rate and review my show wherever you are listening. And last but not least, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me an audio message at bossgirlcreative.com/speak. I would love to hear your takeaways, ideas for upcoming episode topics, and your feedback. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this one.